Hello and welcome to Blue Table Talks. I'm Shari Hubert, your host for this afternoon or morning or evening, wherever you are joining us. Thank you for tuning in. This is actually our final Blue Table Talks of the academic year, and so you are tuning into the right one. In celebration of Women's History Month, we have wonderful guests, and we're going to have a lively conversation and discussion. I'm really looking forward to getting right in there. This particular theme is really called She Leads, the Rise of Women in Business at Fuqua, and so we're really excited to be able to learn of these experiences and the paths that brought these women to Fuqua, where they're headed, and then what their experience has been. So let's get ready and let's jump right in. Why don't we start by just having you each introduce yourself briefly, kind of give the audience a sense of who you are.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Karen Vanderpuye. I am a second year here at the Fuqua Daytime MBA program. Prior to my business school experience, I was a district manager for Aldi for approximately 4 years.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Katie Costin. I am in the Masters of Quantitative Management program on the marketing track. Prior to coming to Fuqua, I was a student at the University of Virginia, and I just completed my bachelor's in applied statistics last May, so super excited to be here.
Hi everyone, Mary Dohrmann. So I have been a student in the Weekend Executive MBA program, about to graduate in May, and prior to that, and while also in the program, I've been working for John Deere, various functional areas, and did my undergraduate degree at the University of Illinois.
Okay, wonderful. All very diverse experiences. Maybe let's talk a little bit about your journey to business school and your journey to your programs. Anyone want to start us off? What inspired you to want to pursue your degree?
I can go ahead and start. So for me, during my undergraduate studies, I had actually gone in as pre-med and was pretty convinced that I was going to go into healthcare. And then during COVID, my ideal career path kind of changed. Didn't really think it was going to be the right fit for me. And so when I was in my second year at UVA, I started to think about what I could do with a statistics degree and a biology minor and where I could go with that. And I had eventually decided that I was going to pursue my always dream in the back of my head job of working in sports. And so I wanted to find a place where I could really pair the statistical skills that I had learned, but also increase my business skills and kind of learn a little bit more about that side. And that's how I was introduced to Fuqua. And so I had conversations with the admissions team here, and they just really created a very welcoming environment for me that made me want to apply to Fuqua, and that's how I ended up here.
And where's the passion for sports come from?
I've always played sports since I was a little kid, so I played volleyball year-round. I guess since I can remember in early middle school, I was playing travel teams for my high school, middle school, and I always loved watching sports. Growing up, I was the biggest March Madness fan, which kicking off this weekend, so very exciting. And so I always, thought it would be very cool, but I didn't know what kind of careers existed for people like me in there that weren't, playing or coaching. And so when I learned more about the front office side and how I can use analytics in sports, I was really excited about that.
Yeah. No. Does anyone else play sports here? Did you in the past?
In the past,
okay,
but definitely not now. I'm talking years and years ago.
Me too. I'm very much retired.
Yeah. Right.
It's grew up swimming, water polo. Now I would say from our cohort, I'm a pickleball player. That was something our cohort loved to do.
Fuqua and pickleball are synonymous at this point. Everyone's playing.
Right. What about you, Karen? What was your path and journey to?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I had gone to be a district manager for Aldi right out of undergrad, and that job was a very fast-paced environment, pretty much learning by doing, and very autonomous. I was in charge of a district of stores, and I was kind of just figuring things out on my own with guidance if needed, but a lot of it was on my own. And I enjoyed the responsibilities that I had, but it came to a point at about 4 years, I wasn't challenged as much as I used to be. My days that went from 10, 12-hour days were now condensed to 3-hour days. And I'm not saying that I want to go back to 12-hour days, but I knew that I was kind of very comfortable in the position that I was in. And I also didn't want to stay in grocery retail for the rest of my life. And so it was either go up for a promotion, apply for a different job kind of in the same field because I only had such niche experience, or pivot and go to business school and kind of figure out what else I could do then. And so my sister was already actually a student at Fuqua at the time when I was thinking about applying for business schools. And so she was able to help provide a lot of guidance in terms of like how the process worked and like the value that I'd be getting from going back to business school. And so that's really how I found myself making that pivot.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes. What about you?
Yeah, so I think I was 10 years into my career, and I had 2 different supervisory roles, and I felt like it was a point where it would be really worthwhile to go back and get some refreshes on some of the undergraduate topics, but more exposure to some of the higher level topics for leadership and strategy that I felt like, I could get a little bit of work experience, but learning a lot more would be able to help me grow that foundation and be able to apply those skills at work. So I was living in Iowa at the time and started looking into, what programs could I do, what options were there. But then it was the fall of 2022, and my husband and I relocated to the area for work. And we said, with living so close, like, we've got to try. So it was an opportunity where we both ended up applying and finding out that we got accepted. So it was super exciting because that day we're like waiting, like, okay, did we both get a phone call? I don't know. Should I call him first?
Yeah.
So it was really exciting though, because we both are really just passionate about trying to continue to develop ourselves and grow in our careers. So that's kind of where we felt like Duke was a great place to do it.
What's it like being in school together?
It's been really great, honestly. Some days the elective terms were a little bit different, just with different assignments and courses, but it has been so nice from a work-life, school balance perspective, just knowing, okay, this weekend we've got a long weekend residency. This weekend it's a hybrid session. And we both know this is a weekend where there's finals. So it just really helped with being able to keep our lives aligned and know when we can plan some social events or take a trip or, have friends or family visit. So it's been really good just to have that support and know, okay, we're going to plan for this, not for that, and just stay aligned.
Oh, good. Oh, that's wonderful. Let me ask you, so was there, you talked about your sister as an influencing mechanism, person. Just in general, in your experiences, how have you found either mentorship, sponsorship, or some kind of influencing individual in terms of shaping either the types of careers that you're interested in or your decision to go ahead and step out and invest in yourself in this way? In what way have those role models and mentors played a role?
Yeah, I can start with that one. So the facility that I was working at when I was still in Iowa, the factory manager was someone who had done the Fuqua program for her MBA. And I think she's just a fantastic leader. I mean, she's driven, but she's so understanding. She's passionate, but still sets high expectations. And she's somebody that I still connect with, usually about quarterly. So just knowing that, she was able to grow in her career, and I think is just someone that is so exemplary in what she does. I felt like that was a really big influence. But then also my supervisor at the time had gone through Duke's program. So it was awesome timing when I moved here, and he just had the best things to say about the program and just talk through different memories. So I think those were 2 of the, just main people that I felt like this was a great place to do my MBA.
That's awesome. I know for me, my mom was actually a big influence because she had gotten her MBA with a healthcare leadership specialization online while she was working. And so it was right before COVID, I think. She had decided to apply. She was a nurse practitioner, and she had decided that she kind of wanted to pursue something a little bit higher, not higher than that, but a different kind of position within healthcare. Yeah. And so she ended up doing a nighttime executive program, and she just inspired me so much. I mean, seeing her going and working her long day and then coming home and hopping on a meeting with her teammates and then flying down to Texas once a month for these weekend residencies. It was just so awesome to see how she could take a non-traditional background and kind of implement herself into something and do really great. And then seeing her now, she's taken on more of a managerial role while also still seeing patients, and she loves it. And like seeing how much that benefited her was really inspiring for me and wanting to pursue that next step.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like so all of you have really jumped in both feet, you know,
For sure.
No hesitation. But we do know that sometimes it can be a little daunting to decide to take this leap, right? Especially in full-time experience. So did any of you ever experience any kind of imposter syndrome or think, you know, this goal is too big or too hard to achieve, and then what got you through it to say, nope, you know what, I deserve this, you know?
Yeah, 1,000%. I come from a family of annoyingly intelligent siblings. And so, like, everybody just excels in whatever it is that they do. I always comment that, like, everybody's smarter than me or, like, whatever the case may be. I know we're all intelligent, but, like, very much so I felt imposter syndrome, especially applying for the schools that I did apply for. They were all, like, top 12 business schools. There was no way I thought that I was, one, going to get into a single one of them, let alone 4 out of 5 of my schools with full scholarships. And I don't say that to brag, but I feel like as women, we don't really...
Brag, girl.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, like, we don't
Brag.
talk about it enough. And so as I was going through the application process, I was still at work and had told my managers that I was applying for a business school, and a lot of them expressed how much they looked up to me for kind of like the authenticity that I brought to the role, and they expressed a lot of confidence that they had in me being able to go to business school. And for me, I'm just like, sure, you guys are just saying that because I'm your boss, so like you have to say something nice. But my older sister who had also been through that same process was like, trust me, like you don't understand how invaluable your experiences are as long as you're able to communicate that. And for me, like the GRE and the GMAT were also, my goodness, another stressor that like came. And so when you're taking those tests and you're seeing the scores and the math is not math, and you're like, I don't know if this is gonna make sense, but it's truly like the community around you that reminds you of your strengths when you begin to focus on your weaknesses. I think that's really what like helped me kind of bypass the whole imposter syndrome that I was experiencing.
I love that. I love that. Have you found that now that you're in your programs, you are able to, like, how do you find community? What sustains you in those times where you're just elated and things are all going swimmingly well, and then what sustains you? What propels you, and then what sustains you in times where it's a little bit more challenging?
Yeah, for sure. I know for me, you know, coming to Durham back in July, I knew maybe 2 people that were going to be in my program, and I was really scared. And one of them I had actually met at the Blue Devil experience in March when I visited after I got accepted. And I mean, I knew one person. I was terrified. I was living by myself. And for the first time ever, I've always, you know, shared a house with my family, my siblings, shared apartments with friends. And I remember that first week we had orientation, and we actually all went out to Tavern that night, you know, just to kind of mingle, get to know everyone in the program a little bit. And almost instantly I had found myself with such a great group of friends. We all had very similar interests. All of us were, you know, similar timelines, having just graduated from our undergrads or maybe a year or 2 of work experience. And, you know, we just all had the same interests. We liked doing the same things. So we started hanging out. And from then, we've basically been inseparable. I mean, I think at this point now, there's probably like 25 of us that are like so close that I think we'll be friends forever. And that's been really great. And within that group, I have a really close group of girlfriends. And I mean, we spend almost every day either together, or talking to each other, or planning trips on the weekends. We're actually going down to Wilmington this weekend for a little, for a little trip with everyone. Just rented like an Airbnb just to spend more time together after spring break, because none of us got to spend it together, unfortunately. So, you know, just kind of having that community and being there for each other has been really big for me, and it's a really big reason why I'm kind of sad about leaving Durham after this ends.
But you still keep in touch with them, right?
Oh, for sure, for sure. We're already planning our little trips to each other. Whenever someone gets a job, we're like, okay, we'll go to this person for this reason, we'll go here for this. So we'll be in touch for sure.
Yeah. And, you know, talk a little bit about your experience, Mary, in terms of, you know, especially from a working professional perspective. How do you build that level of support, and what does it look like, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I've been pretty fortunate with my career at Deere that I've been involved in the Women in Manufacturing group. So I've been able to connect at the different units that I've worked at and with the enterprise team to just have this super supportive network of women everywhere I've been. And, you know, there's men involved in that group too, but just whenever you have a question or a little bit of doubt, there's always somebody that's there to support and encourage you. And, you know, a lot of times I feel like, especially as you go on in your career, people feel like things get more competitive or that there might be like someone else is a threat, but instead it's much more of a like supportive network of like, no, that's awesome for her, that's awesome for you. So that's been really, really great in terms of a work perspective. And then from a school perspective, you know, I think my cohort had, I can't remember the exact percentage of women, but it was pretty much immediately a separate women's Slack channel was created. So we all talked to each other within that group. And, you know, people have just shared like really positive feedback that somebody asked for a raise because of the encouragement that the rest of the group gave, and people will help support one another or give input. You know, a lot of times at lunches, you'd find groups of girls together while we were here for residency, and it was just a really great way to get this whole new supportive network of people that have different experiences, have different backgrounds, have worked in different industries, and you just hear stories of how they've handled things or approached things. So I just feel so fortunate to get to know all of them. And then, you know, too, I think I have a really supportive family. I've got 2 sisters, a brother, parents, and, you know, my husband and his extended family too. And so everybody's just been super supportive throughout this experience. And, you know, as I've had to take time off of work to be here for the residency weekends, my team has been really receptive to that. You know, I try to cover as much as I can and we'll take calls as needed. But really everybody's just been so supportive and encouraging and have asked, you know, how can we help or don't worry about it while I've been going through the program.
Oh, wonderful. And you mentioned there's a Women in Business. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so some of the girls in my cohort also started. So a lot of times there's the student programs for the daytime group, but with the Weekend Executive program, we were able to start the Women in Business group as well. So, you know, they coordinated a handful of different events. So just making sure that I could attend and support as many of those, not only to support the group, but then learn. We had a handful of really good guest speakers that came. And so it's just a great way, again, to get exposure to different industries. You know, my career's primarily been manufacturing and operations.
Very male dominated.
Yeah, right. And so it's been interesting to hear how there's, you know, some similar challenges that women face in pharmaceuticals, you know, so it's been really insightful to have that whole group and just be able to listen to each other and then try and provide some positive feedback too.
Yeah. And I know we have an Association of Women in Business, and I know, Karen, you're a part of it, but you also had mentioned, we can talk a little bit about some of the activities that they've done, because I participated in one of their the Investing in Women's conference that you guys put on. But you had mentioned that your section is very close.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in general, Fuqua does a really good job of admitting students that really value the community aspect and value just uplifting one another, men and women. I'll say that like very authentically and very genuinely, but I would say that leaning into that in your section and then even in your like C-Lead, which is our small group of like the people that you work with your group projects and stuff like that over the first year, that's really where I found a lot of the community that I have. In my section, there are girls that are notorious for being the hostesses or the ones that are going to be the ones that will invite you. They'll have an event for everything. One of my close friends in my section has an event for everything. So she's very open door policy. Everybody's invited and welcome to come, and that's really how I've found a good community outside of that, as well as I'm part of the BBSA program and the Black Business Student Association, and we also have a separate girls chat as well that goes into that. So it's like the melanated ladies of Fuqua. So that's another group that I found myself aligned with that really speaks to like empowering and uplifting women specifically. And so I think just in general, the environment that Fuqua already creates really allows that to happen organically and naturally for you to find that community. It's really not hard. You have to stay indoors pretty much every single day and not talk to anybody for you to not be able to find. I'm so serious. Like you can be the most shy person and you will find your people here. And so I think it's very encouraging and uplifting that we've experienced at least.
Yeah, and I know I was talking to the co-leaders of the Association of Women in Business, and you know, in addition to the event that I participated in, we partner with them on the Women's Leadership Workshop. They do their own negotiation workshop. They do a personal finance workshop for their members. They have a mentor program between the first years and the second year MBA students. There's what else? There's information on they meet with alumni who come back and talk about kind of 5 years out. So there's constant both structural club-based programming, but also these wonderful experiences and just social community building that is not necessarily structured, but that you find your belonging, you find your tribe, you find your people, as they say.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And I think it's so important. Speaking of like in the program experience, like from an identity perspective, how important is your female identity on a day-to-day? Like, is that what you, is that kind of front and center always, or is it, for you, is it being a Black woman? Is it being someone who's athletic? Is it being a spouse of, having a spouse? Like, what identities are important to you?
Oh, goodness. I mean, I think for me, I really, embrace everything that there is about being a woman. Like, I think that women are awesome. Like, we should be able to do all of the things that we want to do, and there shouldn't be anything holding us back. And so for me, especially with applying for jobs right now, one thing that I've found is that when I get into conversations with different companies or teams that I'm looking at working for, I always want to make sure that I'm asking them, like, how are you supporting the women that are working for you? Or why are there no women that are directing any of these departments? What are you guys doing to really empower the women that are working for your organization? And if I'm not, hearing something that is resembling my mindset on how women should be acting in business or how they should be celebrated, then I know that's not an organization that I'm going to be passionate about. And so for me, I think, looking for the traits that I want in an organization has been super important, and just kind of understanding that that empowerment is so needed everywhere. So not even in sports, but also manufacturing, everywhere you go, you really want to make sure that there's people around you that put us at the forefront, because I think that we have a lot of great things to offer and a lot of great ideas.
That's right. I mean, that agency, having agency, that's one of the things I think I learned confidence, finding my voice in the sense of agency through the business school experience. What other things have you guys really taken from this experience that you will take into, you take into every day that you go out, but you'll take back into your experience?
I think business school experience for me, I thought coming in I would be learning more of the hard skills, the hard classes, the finance, things like that I didn't already know. And my transformation was more personal than anything. I think a lot of it came with being able to advocate for myself and speak up in situations that I normally wouldn't have. I grew up as a middle child, and my sisters are very strong opinionated. I typically would just kind of skulk in the background. They'd fight for me, things like that. And so because of my own doing, of course, I lacked a lot of boundaries coming into business school, and I think this was the place where I really was able to enforce those boundaries in different ways than you would expect, not only within the classroom but also outside of the classroom, whether that be I've set my goal for 2 trips a year because that's all that I can afford, and being able to say no and not feeling bad about that, and staying at home and being able to be bye guys, have fun wherever you're going, but saying no, deciding that that's what I want to do, and then sticking to that. And I think the environment has been good for me because you recognize that setting boundaries for yourself doesn't result in backlash from people. People actually, they don't care that much. They're so involved with themselves that it's not something that's gonna impact you negatively. And so having the confidence and being able to feel like I can be authentic and to who I am and true to who I am is really what I gained out of the experience that I did not expect to gain at all. And I quickly realized that within the first year that's what was happening. And I was let me lean into this because it makes you a better leader in the end. You got to be able to set those boundaries. I don't want to be working 16 hours a day. I want to be able to say, hey, by 6 p.m. latest, that's all you're getting out of me from today. You know what I mean? Things like that. That's what I think I picked up a lot from the business program.
Yeah, and I think too, I went to an all-girls high school, so I feel like I had this early founding of women can do anything. And I remember distinctly in my undergrad sitting in a class and all of a sudden being oh my gosh, that was a man's voice that just responded to the question. But so sometimes I find myself in work environments or even in the classroom, or if you're on a team, all of a sudden I'm I am the only girl. You know? So sometimes it surprises me when I notice it and when I don't. But I do think takeaways from being in business school is really, like recognizing your talents and what you want, but then also how do you advocate for other people, so like taking some of the leadership courses, what's your style of how you handle things, and then how do you apply that so that you can recognize what's really important to your people and recognize what their boundaries are and kind of learn, okay, how do I maybe challenge this employee, or how do I continue to encourage them, or how do I help this team member out because maybe they're not seeing that they have the potential to do something. So I feel like that's been a really important takeaway for me is, I think I totally agree. Women are super capable and like we're able to do so much. So finding what people's unique strengths are and helping encourage and support them is, I think, really a huge takeaway for me here. And even in the classroom, if someone raises their hand or says something, just, you can echo it and say like, yep, totally agree. And further discuss stuff outside of class if you feel like somebody's not really getting your point on something. So that's been, I think, one of my favorite parts about the program too.
Yeah, and you get to apply what you're learning immediately the next day.
That's awesome.
Any stories, any specific like examples of something that you learned that really came in handy, in terms of a project you were working on, or a human capital issue that you were dealing with or something?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was probably in term 2 where that was the first time I realized like, oh, I can like really contribute to this conversation and help some of my peers in this cohort learn. We were in a leadership class talking about, times where you've been able to leverage a certain skill set or you were able to really motivate somebody. And then the professor also asked, what are times where you couldn't? And so after class, somebody came up to me and said, like, I really appreciated you sharing that perspective. Because it just helps everybody, learn. Everything's not always easy, right? Like you're gonna face some really hard obstacles, and you're gonna have to pause and think, like, I don't know how to handle this. So it definitely armed me, with more. But then I also feel like I was able to contribute to others learning as well. But then another, I would say, more recent takeaway was with the strategy courses. Part of my current work responsibilities is setting our sourcing strategy and being able to take some of those frameworks that we used for class discussions and case analysis, and then being able to apply them to what I'm doing, trying to understand the market better, trying to understand our customers better, and how what our suppliers provide to us can meet those needs. So I think that's been super helpful, just to be able to like take this, during class I would make notes of like, think about this on Monday when I'm back in the office. So I really enjoyed that part of it.
Oh, wonderful. Speaking of challenges, how do you guys navigate challenges, either through, class, academic, or maybe social things? Like what's, come up, not sharing too much of your business. Just in general, like, what's your take? What's your take on, because it's like I always say, it's a microcosm of the real world, and so you're going to experience the same kinds of craziness sometimes in these programs. And so what kinds of skills or experience or characteristics do you lean on to get through those challenges? And perhaps how have you grown, and how has that evolved in terms of how you deal with those challenges?
Yeah, I think for me, something that I've really taken away from this program and just kind of graduate school in general is that not everything requires an immediate response. And so for me, before coming to this program, sometimes if I ever was dealing with like a challenge or a conflict, and like someone sends off an email and you read it and you're like, oh, really? This is how we're gonna do this? And like you immediately want to fire back something, like kind of taking the step back and just like giving your mind some time to process, like really think about how you want to address what you're dealing with. I think that's been really big for me. So even when it's not a conflict, but if I'm ever dealing with something that's really difficult, like a hard task for my internship or in school, taking the step back and realizing that you don't have to immediately try to fix all your problems, that's been really beneficial for me. And so that's something I'll carry with me throughout.
Yeah. I think, one, that's a really good point. I guess something I've also learned is not being reactive, and instead just being able to like take a beat, figure out how you're feeling about it, give it a few hours, and then coming back to it. But two, recognizing people that you really trust to go to for advice. And my list is super short. And it's not that I don't value the advice that other people can give me, but I think that there are certain people that I met at Fuqua that I find so just incredible, and like how they handled their challenges and situations with so much grace and so much resilience. And so I would prefer to go to them for advice, but before I even do that, I clock how I feel about the situation and what I think is like the appropriate response for me or how I would tackle that challenge. And so my advice isn't going to be like, how would you do this? Originally, it's this is how I'm going to approach this. What do you think about that? Or if it were like me coming to you about it, how do you think that would land with you? This helps me kind of think for myself. I think growing up, I've been one to collect advice from all other people or like hear what other people say. When I'm going to an event, it ends up being a session like, you should do X, Y, Z. And then I do it, and I don't love, one, the response that I get because I've approached that challenge that way, or two, recognize like I actually didn't want to do this in the first place. And so now I'm kind of, it's not authentic to me. And so now I'm like in a position where I didn't want to be here. I don't know how to navigate it because it's not how I normally would respond. And so just pausing, recognizing how you feel about it, and then going to people that you are like, and you really have to like take account for who these individuals will be, because you don't want to go to just anybody, and just be like, how do you perceive what I'm saying, or how I'm going to respond to this challenge? And if there's anything you could add to it or like tailor, what would that be? That's my,
I like that.
Yeah, and I think it kind of depends on what the specific challenge is.
Sure.
You know, I think, is it something that's only impacting me? Is it something that is due to a relationship at work, or is it something that I can control or can't control? I think one of the big things is just, how I communicate it. So is it my immediate response, or do I need to be a little bit more tactful in how I'm either providing somebody with feedback, or am I making my own challenge? Like, am I busying myself too much? That's something my husband points out a lot. He's like, Mary, why are you doing this? Just like take a moment, pause, relax, it's fine. And usually the pause is a huge help, and it allows me to clear my mind and think through, okay, let's prioritize. If I need to communicate with someone, do that. And then, also try and follow up to ensure, okay, is this something that's going to keep happening, or are we done with it?
Yeah, I like that. Fuqua, we're known for the Team Fuqua values, and I'm curious, have anyone want to share a particular quintessential Team Fuqua moment, or how you would define a Team Fuqua moment, or something that's actual story actually has happened to you that you would say was your Team Fuqua moment?
I feel like that's hard to pick, just one.
So many.
I always. So it's not necessarily specific to me, but I played a role in, I guess, like building that Team Fuqua moment. And and I won't go too much into the details, but like one of our classmates became sick last year, and I was just amazed by how much the community rallied behind her. Like, and not from the very beginning until the end of it. Like, everybody, between watching her dog and cleaning up her apartment for her so she didn't have to worry about that, making her food so she felt like she had a home-cooked meal whenever she, it was incredible. And I'm not talking just students, I'm talking faculty members as well. Like, to me, that is really what showed me that Team Fuqua was like true and through. Like, I felt it because everybody was so nice and so genuine, and like, I mean, nobody's gonna be perfect, so there's gonna be some people that slip through the cracks, I'll be honest, but like, for the most part, everybody was very very great. But I think that in that moment is when I was like, wow, this is actually, people are doing this out of the genuine kindness of their heart, because that is the community that Fuqua has built, and people are going to be there for you regardless, through thick and thin, no matter what. And so I always think about that. Again, it didn't happen personally to me, but I swear I felt like, I was like, oh my goodness, I could go through anything here, and I know that I would be taken care of. So.
No, that's awesome. Mine might be more of a lighthearted note, but for graduate student camp out for basketball in the fall, one of my favorite memories was, camping out with all of my best friends here at Fuqua, and, not even just like in our own tent groups, but across camp out, we would find different Fuqua students. And throughout the weekend, it was funny to see how, like, we had created new friendships. We were throwing footballs with people that we had just met just because they had a Fuqua shirt on, like, really creating connections. And I think that's one of those things where you don't even need to know the person. You hear Fuqua or you see Fuqua on them, and you're immediately their friend. And, like, for me, that has been so much fun, because I experienced, like, a similar kind of connection with that in my undergrad, like, just the school spirit and like how much people care about each other has been so much fun. And so like kind of getting a second chance at that, but doing it at Fuqua has been so special for me, because I know that even when I leave here, like, people will always be there for me. Yeah, for sure. And like, even as I'm exploring, jobs, different paths, things like that, post-grad, all it takes is saying like Fuqua, and they're like, oh, I know 5 people at Fuqua.
Yeah,
Or,
exactly.
oh my gosh, let me connect you with this person. And then before I know it, I'm having calls with people that I would have never dreamed of talking to just
Right.
because of a Fuqua Connect.
Right.
And so just, knowing that it extends after we leave this
Yeah.
place has really been awesome.
Absolutely, and the alumni too. I would say
Yes,
that, like
the
even
alumni.
coming into Fuqua, I applied for jobs through like the pre-MBA diversity programs, and so I was applying for consulting roles and need to practice case prepping.
Right.
These people were already in their full-time roles, already schedules crazy, and still at the end of the day, they would make time to case me that they've never met before. I'm just emailing them because, hey, you went to Fuqua and you worked, you were recruited for this, and so I think that's where the Team Fuqua kind of spirit really shows as well through the alumni a lot.
Yeah, and I would agree. I mean, it was that first weekend that we all came for a residency where it was just like, oh my gosh, I have like this now default group of like 170 plus people. Like it was just, you didn't need to know anybody coming prior, but it was just immediately everybody wanted to get to know you, get to know your story, get to know why you're here, what do you want to get out of the program, and just so many different fun events. I mean, we have like karaoke nights that we planned, and we had fantasy football league. We're trying to coordinate girls trips, and so just so many, I think, new close relationships. But then even a specific example, I was traveling last year for work, and it was during finals, and I was at a bus stop in Germany, and my team's messaging me like, yep, no worries, we're submitting right now, like, so giving me that peace of mind when I'm like totally halfway across the world doing something completely else, but you just know that these people are there for you no matter what.
Yeah, they have your back. Exactly. Exactly. What's some favorite either classes or courses or professors that you can think of and share with the audience? Anyone have a favorite? Especially any female faculty, or it doesn't have to be, but
Yeah, I just took the leadership course with Daisy Lovelace.
oh, great.
Boss woman.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
she doesn't even have to speak. It just like exudes out of her. Like she is just so incredible, and she tells it like it is, and is just very straightforward. And she's so smart and intelligent, and knows how to engage a classroom and kind of help you like pull out your strengths and what your passions are and find the intersection between the two. And it's just she's truly incredible. I've had actually a good amount of female professors that have really like hit the mark for me at school, and so I'm really happy that I've been able to experience that. But everybody talks about Daisy Lovelace, so I just had to like put that out there. Like the hype is very real.
That's awesome. For me, I know I had the luxury of having this professor twice because she also taught my marketing elective, or she's teaching it right now actually. So Allison Cheney, she was my programming teacher for summer 1. So beginning my first like days at Fuqua, I was like, wow, she's really smart. Like she knows everything. And so, getting to learn Python from her, she knows all of the things. Like she's so unbelievably smart. It's absolutely unreal. And then finding out that I would get her from my last term at Fuqua too was just so exciting because I loved her class so much, and it had been months since I had, gotten to learn from her. And so with this class that we're in now, just taking market intelligence, I really, enjoyed getting to learn from her, learning how to build surveys, learning how to understand the market and apply data analysis to it. She is just like the epitome of a boss woman. Like she is doing it all, and she's amazing.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I think the way our cohort schedule worked out and professor availability, we actually weren't able to have female professors until our elective terms, but it was super exciting once we hit elective terms, and I had Ashley Rosette for negotiations in term 1, and then term 2, Jamie Jones for entrepreneurship, and they are both just rock stars. I mean, I do a lot of negotiating for work right now, and I thought, do I do this class? Do I not? But so many people said how wonderful she is. And so did the class, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just so impactful, and like talking about skills that you can apply right away earlier.
That's right.
Another perfect example of that, where it's like, I feel so much more capable. And then even being able to use some of the outline and perspectives of how we worked through examples and coach some of the younger employees as they're trying to start doing more negotiating. That's been super helpful. And then the entrepreneurship class, it was just, I think, so eye-opening for me. Like I've always had this interest in the back of my mind of oh, maybe one day I could, do my own thing, but
Okay.
let me learn a little bit more about this
Yeah.
and what it entails. But I just loved all of the surprises that Jamie would bring into class. I don't know if any of you have
tell us.
heard. Well, I don't want to ruin the surprise, so she might be mad. Just, I would say, be prepared that if you're doing a case analysis, you may have the opportunity to hear from someone from that
protagonist.
company. And it was like an awesome surprise. She'd be like, and if you have questions, you can talk to them now. And so it was so cool because it was this like immediate hands-on learning and, not all hypothetical of, like I know the cases are real examples, but then it got even more real when you got to talk to those people. Yeah. So they were both just amazing professors. I mean, along with all the men, but they were two just rock stars to end the program with.
Oh, that's great. You just told me, just made me think of something. So, in your classes, I'm curious. I mean, now we have a good mix of gender balance and everything. Do you? I mean, you don't know any different because this is you're experiencing for the first time. But do you feel like empowered in your classes, and are you finding that people are supportive and men and women kind of like I say, double clicking on comments and making sure that everyone's voices get heard and things like that?
For the most part, I think that is the case. I don't really feel like there's an issue with, I mean, again, I think Fuqua does a great job with building that diversity in the community. So it's not the first thing that comes to mind when I walk into a classroom and I'm like, oh goodness, I'm like one of the only women in this classroom. Now, I will say when it comes to the electives, we ourselves start to narrow ourselves out of the finance electives and the tax courses and things like that, and then that's when you start to feel it. But even then, when you're speaking up, there are women that are in those courses. I took a tax course, and there was this girl that was in the class, and she was so intelligent because that's her background, so she was not afraid to speak up. And a lot of the men in the course would follow up and ask her questions in a supportive way, not in a challenging way. And so I think in the classroom, you don't really feel that naturally when it comes to being broken up into your sections, because it is a pretty, I would say, almost even split. And then even in your elective courses, when you do choose to kind of be now in the smaller group of women that are in those male-dominant classes, again, you still feel like you're empowered and you don't really come across too many issues where you're like, oh goodness, this is a problem. Yeah.
I'm curious, so you're about to graduate, each of you are about to graduate. Yourself 2 years, 1 year earlier, what would you have told yourself? What advice do you have for individuals kind of thinking about this experience? What do you wish you would have known when you were applying?
I think for me, something that I've really learned and embraced throughout my time here has just been to just go for it. I think that a lot of times we talk ourselves out of opportunities that we would have been great fits for just because we have that self-doubt that, and this is for men and women, you just have the self-doubt that why would I ever be qualified for this? Why would anyone ever pick me for this? But then when you put yourself out there and you're not afraid of, maybe not getting the job or not getting the thing that you wanted, you learn so much about yourself and what you're capable of. And so I think that just kind of telling that fear to just move out of the way has been so big for me, and it's a reason why I'm so confident, entering the world in my first full-time role. I just feel like things are going to work out because I'm giving myself the chance to have opportunities, and I don't think I was doing that entirely before. So I think that's been really great for me to learn.
Getting out of your own way.
Yes, get out of your own way.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it, I would say one bit of advice for anyone doing the WEMBA program is do as much of the prep work as you can before you get to campus, because those weekends and the week-long residencies, your time is so precious, and there's so many fun things to do, and you're here with that whole network of people, and that is such an important part of the experience is getting to know your cohort. Obviously the curriculum is a huge part of it, it probably is the main part, but the network is just so important. So do as much of that prep work as you can before you come to campus so that you can maximize all of your time here. You can go to the different pickleball games, you can go to the different speaker events. But yeah, I think also it's just, it can be overwhelming, but know that you're not doing it alone. So if you have conflicts or challenges, talk to your team members about it. They're the most supportive people that are going to be there for you. And if you have a work trip planned or a family event planned, just let them know. And you can figure out, okay, this assignment we split up this way, this one we'll split up differently. So really lean on the people that you're here with and get to know them well is the advice I would share.
Yeah, for me, I would say identifying what like your goal out of business school is outside of obviously finding a job and kind of pivoting or building upon the skills that you already have. Personally, what your goal is as well, because I think Fuqua is the main thing that we're trying to do here is like build future leaders. And so a lot of that comes down to like your personal brand and who you are as an individual. And so being able to recognize like the type of person that you want to be, and then taking on the like opportunities that you can to become that individual, and making sure you're checking in with yourself to respect the commitments that you've made to yourself or the promises that you've made to yourself to be able to show up for yourself in that way. And so just recognizing who you want to be, how you want to show up in the world, what your purpose is, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, etc. And then kind of clocking in and reminding yourself like, yeah, I want to be this type of person, or I already am, I have these like traits and qualities and I want to strengthen those, and then putting yourself out there to be able to do so. And I think this is a great environment to do so, where it's like there's not a lot of, I guess, like backlash, or you're not gonna, I mean, you're if you be, right, it's a safe space, exactly. If you want to try being the president of something, try it at this club first and see how that kind of turns out, because I mean, at the end of the day, the school's not gonna burn down or anything if you fail. And so allow yourself to like fail here, because it is a safe space for you to kind of build into that person that you want to be.
That's a great segue, because I'm curious. I'm going to ask you, but just kind of a day in the life. So how did you decide, maybe share with the audience the leadership roles or things that you chose to engage in? How did you come to make those decisions? And then what's the day in the life of a second-year MBA student like?
Yeah, the leadership role. So currently I'm an FCCP fellow, which is the Fuqua Client Consulting Practicum. And then I'm also an admissions fellow, and I'm the VP of admissions for the BBSA as well. And so for me, my roles were more aligned with, one, my passions, and then two, what I want to do in the future. And so trying to get in some work in there, as well as things that I would find beneficial to build as leaders. So, and rewarding as well. So one, like for admissions fellow, I remember my admissions process with Fuqua specifically, and I think that it was just, I felt that they were so authentic and so engaging, and so I wanted to be able to give that back to the community, and that's why I did those kind of positions. I love seeing the prospective students come, and you'll have people that came, and Fuqua was maybe like number 3 or 4 on their list, and you could tell, and then by the end of the weekend, they're like, what do I do to get in here? Because this is like the place that I need to be in. I've had already so many people come back that have been accepted, and like it's such a full circle moment to kind of feel that. So that's why I chose that. For consulting, I had no experience in consulting, and so I did the FCCP course last year, and I enjoyed it a lot, and so I wanted to be a fellow and be able to be like that advisory position and kind of get that experience, hopefully, so I can kind of transfer those skills that I've, or that knowledge or experience that I've had into my position when I graduate. And then you said a day in the life at Fuqua. Honestly, second year, she's lovely. We love second year. Yeah, first year was definitely first year was tough. First year was tough because your schedule is just so much, like the classes. There's so many classes that you have. There's all these events that are happening, and you want to be able to do everything. And so again, coming down to like understanding your why you're here, what you're trying to get out of it, setting those boundaries, and then sticking to those boundaries. So a typical day would look like me in class from like 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. because my section had a terrible schedule, but it's fine because we spent a lot of time together. So
got real close.
Yeah, exactly. I was very much heavy in the gym, and that stopped immediately after summer term, and that's okay too, because you're gonna realign your focus. But I spent a lot of time building a community, showing up to events, putting myself in positions so that I could kind of strengthen my leadership skills as well, and yeah, focusing on giving back to the community as much as I could, or giving back to the Fuqua students as much as I could. Nice. Sorry, long-winded answer, but
oh, it's great.
Love it.
It's great. Mary, what about you? What's a typical? I mean, you've been able to really share, I think, a good insights into what the experience is like. But anything else in terms of how your teams were structured and what that experience is?
Yep. So terms 1 and 2, you're with the same team, and then terms 3 and 4, you're with the same group as well. And then within your elective terms, you're able to kind of self-select which groups you work with. So it's really nice that you have that initial, supporting group. You do a lot of team building also as you're here for those week-long residency sections. And that allows you to really get to know those people well and just understand, how each other likes to work. And then that enables you as you go through the rest of the term to better tackle all the assignments and projects that you have. But our program is structured with the week-long residency at the beginning, and then we would do weekend residency sessions where we'd come to campus Thursday through Sunday, and then you'd have a weekend off, and then you'd do a hybrid Saturday. So a lot of us that are in the area would all come to campus for those hybrid Saturdays, which I loved those days because it was a little bit more of a condensed class, but then we would all get together afterwards, whether it was to grab dinner or drinks or anything. So it was just a really great way to, learn a little bit on a Saturday, but then also have some fun too.
Every Saturday?
It was one Saturday a month. And then when we moved to the elective terms, it's, a week long at the beginning, and then you just have 5 hybrid Saturdays after that. So many of us were like, wait a second, what? We don't get to see each other in person for these classes anymore. So that was definitely a shift, but it was nice where then those terms are a little bit more condensed, and you cover a lot of material all at once, but it allows you to just learn, and then you're on to the next term. So, and now shortly to graduation. But I also participated in the FCCP program. So again, that I would recommend. It's busy,
for sure.
But I would say it's a really good opportunity if anyone is interested in consulting or just trying something different, especially when you're able to put yourself in a position where you're trying to find out exactly what a problem is when you may not be that expert. So it allows you to do, I think, a little bit more creative thinking and challenging yourself to try and learn about an industry that you may not be as familiar with. So definitely recommend that as an opportunity.
And was your team, was it mixed with both folks from the executive MBA and the daytime, or was it all executive MBA?
It was all executive MBA, but we were mixed between the weekend executive program and the global.
Oh, great.
So that was really cool because we got
yeah.
to meet some of those students prior to we merged with them for the elective term.
Right, the super terms.
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. So it was really cool because you got to, we were in classes, and then it was like, oh wait, I recognize you. You're in my class for FCCP. So that was really nice. Just a way to continue to expand your network.
Oh, great.
Cool.
And what about you?
Oh gosh, I am doing it all. I'll preface this by saying I live and die by my Google Calendar, and I would not be able to do it without her. So at Fuqua, I'm pretty involved, I would say. I'm working with admissions as an admissions ambassador, which has been so much fun for me. That was a really big reason why I wanted to come to Fuqua, is because of how awesome the admissions team was. And so kind of getting the opportunity to give that back, like you were saying, it was just such an awesome experience. I've loved, doing interviews, doing panels, talking to admitted students and prospective students, just kind of seeing like the spark in their eyes when they realize that this is where they want to be. I remember like having that moment. And so being able to see that happen from the other side has been so rewarding. Outside of that, I work with the Global Marketing Office a lot, so I'm a marketing fellow, which is really fun. Have created some really great relationships there and gotten to explore a little bit of like the content production side, which has been really fun for me. If you look at like the Fuqua Instagram, I've done lots of silly videos. Like Valentine's Day, I had to go interview MBA students about their favorite date spot. And so you can
I saw that video.
Yes, that was me. And so you can only imagine how awkward that was walking up to students eating lunch.
so
I'm like,
funny.
so here's this little microphone. Can I ask you a question really quick? And so like stuff like that has been so much fun. Like I never thought that it would be something I'm interested in doing, but it's been really fun. So those are like two of the big things that I do at Fuqua. And then outside of Fuqua, I'm also a partnership marketing intern at USA Football. So that's something I picked up on the side this semester. Really wanted to expand my sports experiences for my resume, and also just learning new skills with really great people. So that's a lot of the stuff I'm doing in my free time. But, a day in the life, it could be anywhere from, being in meetings all day for my internship and going to class, or no classes, enjoying a nice Wednesday like we're doing today. Wouldn't want to be anywhere
For
else.
those who aren't familiar with the structure of the MQM Business Analytics program, and especially with the tracks, can you
Yes.
share a little bit about kind of what what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So MQM, we have 5 terms, which is really fun. Super quick. It's going by so unbelievably fast. But you have a summer term, which is 4 classes, really intense, just getting right to it. And so you have a team for summer and for both fall terms, which is really fun. Love doing that. So your summer team was mixed with all sorts of different tracks. We're not split up by track yet. So within strategy, risk, finance, and marketing, we're all together. Made a lot of really great friends through those classes. And then in fall 1 and fall 2, you switch to your elective schedule. So we all take our core classes, but then we also have the added benefit of taking an elective specific to our track. And so we have we had 4. So we had 1 for every term, fall 1, fall 2, spring 1, spring 2. And so we had a team switch over for the spring semesters. And so I'm working with my new team now, and we have our capstone for this last semester, which is really fun, getting some real world experience. And I got the luxury of getting to work with the pro sports team, which I'm not allowed to talk about too much, but we are under lock with that. But really fun opportunity to just kind of take the skills that we've spent the last, 8 months building and, see how they actually function in the real world, working with real problems. So that has been really enjoyable.
Yeah. Anything you guys still want to accomplish before you graduate that you haven't already?
That's tough.
That's a great question.
Oh, man.
I think one of the challenges with the Weekend Executive MBA program is you're not on campus all the time. There's quite a few people that do live in Durham and can come, spend more time on the university grounds. I live about 40 minutes from campus, so that's one thing where I would love to just spend a little bit more time on campus if I can sneak up here, just because there's so many opportunities that you could take advantage of with different events. I mean, classroom settings, study rooms, the gardens are beautiful. Just being able to feel like you're a student. I think the WEMBA program's a little tough with everybody working full-time also, that it's hard to dedicate too much extra time to campus. But I'd say that would be, just trying to figure out what else I can do in the next couple months, but then also make a plan for, how do I stay connected after graduation.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
That's right. Yeah. Well, we usually, the couple of minutes that we have left, we usually also get questions in from the audience in advance, and we do have a few questions. So, and we can kind of do these a little quicker. What resources did you find most valuable to building your leadership toolkit while at Fuqua? Like, what's it, clubs, classes? I mean, it could be anything.
Yeah.
But these are the examples.
Yeah, I would, again, shameless plug for FCCP. I think that is just a huge thing. You're in front of clients, and it's really you and your team that are really leading that project. And so I think that was really good, as well as just taking on any leadership positions within any clubs or organizations that you choose to be on. I think business school can be very student-led, and I think that's a great thing because it gives you the opportunity to kind of put your skills up front, but also learn from other people around you that are coming from literally all different places of the world. And so I think that's a really cool opportunity that is really helpful.
Anything? If not,
I think the leadership courses are excellent.
Okay. The curriculum.
Yeah, I think those are great. And similarly, I'd say, with any of the student groups, if you can take on a position there, that's great. But also with your assignments, like if you're someone when you have group presentation and you're not a good public speaker, make yourself do it. Like you said earlier, this is the time to really let yourself fail or learn. You can do dry runs with your team and get yourself more comfortable, because those are going to be skills that can just carry you forward in your career.
That's true.
Great advice. Right, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Looking back, what is one assumption you had about leadership before Fuqua that completely changed after your experience here? How did that shift impact your career or decision making, if at all?
I think for me, something that I've seen, not just in myself, but in a lot of the people I've worked with on teams or just in class, is that leadership doesn't always have to be some large, outspoken trait about you. I think that I've seen leadership from a lot of my teammates and track mates, through little things. And I think that, you just can't understate the power of, being able to listen to someone. Like, being a good listener is half of being a leader, I think. And so just seeing my teammates and all my classmates, learning how to listen to each other and learning how to communicate with each other and it might not always be like the biggest impact or like the most like out, like I don't even know how to describe it, but like just not, it doesn't have to be like a large act to be a leader. I think that, you know, anyone can be a leader, and I think that everyone at Fuqua really is a leader. I think that's something that has really been, you know, taught by everyone around us. So I think that, you know, just remembering that small things can be acts of leadership.
Yeah, oh, love it, profound. Look at you. And then the last one is, what are some of the biggest challenges women leaders face in the corporate world today, and how can aspiring business leaders, regardless of gender, help create a more inclusive workplace? And I'll, you know, just put a finer point on that. Kind of how can men be greater allies to women, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think I mentioned earlier I'm part of the Women in Manufacturing group, and we have a allyship committee, so really regularly have men that are trying to learn, trying to understand, trying to help advocate. And I think similarly, there have been some wonderful men in my cohort that after we had some class discussions in leadership where, you know, we talked about different statistics and how that may impact women, or marketing class on the pink tax, you know, it's, they would come up to you after and ask questions. And so I think that's the best way, is just always be curious and never take that anyone has like malintent, just trying to understand each other's perspectives, you know, never feel like you've always got the right answer, but always try and ask to understand.
I love that. I love that. Anything else?
Yeah, that really sums it up.
Yeah, exactly. It does. Well, let me just first say congratulations on each of your upcoming graduations. We actually have all three of them will be graduating in May, so we're excited about that. Thank you so much. We are right on time at 4. You guys are good. Thank you so much. This has been such a wonderful way to spend this past hour, and just getting to know you, and you getting to know each other, and sharing, being so vulnerable and sharing your thoughts and experiences with us. This is, like I said, our final Blue Table Talk for the season, and so thank you everyone out there who has joined us. I hope you've enjoyed getting to know a little bit more about the special sauce that is Fuqua. And I just wish you all the best. And I wish everyone out there the best. I usually end by saying be kind to each other, but I'll also add be informed, be engaged, you know, and continue to support each other. That's all I can say. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah,
everyone.
thank you so much.
Take care.
Thank you.